Oh shit. It's recording. Howdy y'all. Welcome back to Bioshock. You know, 9 out of 10 ladies prefer the athletic man. Advertising sports question. Now the eggs are in the scramble. Ryan will be taking down Fontaine, or Fontaine will be taking down Ryan. He's holding. Where in the bloody devil did I leave off last episode? Okay, I'm going here to go here. And then going here to here to go to here to here. So I need to go here to go there.
I had thought I left the parasites of Moscow. I had thought I had left the mark without
Diane, my dear, I'm sorry, but I'll be late again tonight. Rosenberg is demanding to speak about this Fontaine business. I'm trying to build a proper financial market, and this idiot keeps going on about this, genetic modification, that. I'll go spend an hour pretending to pay attention to the poor fellow and be home as soon as I can. Andre.
Yeah, that's nice. Let's go ahead and reload our platform.
This is the way to succeed.
Now, are you ever bringing old Peach them snappies, or are you just sightseeing?
Whoa, beyond.
Mr. Ryan, I believe in Ratchet, but that doesn't mean we always win. Fontaine Futuristics is the biggest thing going in Ratchet, so let me be plain. When we arrest that tow rag Fontaine for his thieving and smuggling, we must make it clear that we won't touch his business interests. We sit on the council because these poor sods trust us, not because God gave us a chair.
Come on, you fuck! Fight me properly!
Maybe stop chucking grenades like a bitch.
believe in Rancher, but that doesn't mean we always win. Fontaine Futuristics is the biggest thing going in Rancher. So let me be plain. When we arrest that tow rag Fontaine for his thieving and smuggling, we must make it clear that we won't touch his business interests. We sit on the council because these poor sods trust us, not because God gave us a chair.
That's it.
That's right. Drop this. The power of
Motherfuck.
tells you.
Holy shit.
I took me wife on her first date to this place. You must think I'm a fool. Taking a fine lady to a dump like this. But you don't know me, Moira. Give her a string of pearls and a silk gown and she'll dance a waltz. Give her a sea shanty and a bottle of rum. She'll drink a pirate under the table.
Mr. Ryan, I believe in Rancher, but that doesn't mean we always win. Fontaine Futuristics is the biggest thing going in Rancher. So let me be plain. When we arrest that tow rag Fontaine for his thieving and smuggling, we must make it clear that we won't touch his business interests. We sit on the council because these poor sods...
Sounds like that should about do it. Head on back to Fontaine Fisheries when you're ready, would you kindly?
That's Epidode.
We saw our Masha today. We barely recognized her. That's her, Sam said. You're crazy, I told him. That thing? That is our Masha? But he was right. She was drawing blood out of a corpse by Fontaine Fisheries. And then when she was done, she walked off hand in hand with one of those awful golems. Masha!
Mr. Ryan, I believe in Rancher, but that doesn't mean we always win. Fontaine Futuristics is the biggest thing going in Rancher. So let me be plain. When we arrest that tow rag Fontaine for his thieving and smuggling, we must make it clear that we won't touch his business interests. We sit on the council because these poor sods trust us, not because God gave us a chair.
He says you
didn't they? You think you could get away from it?
Welcome to the Circus of Value.
Anything else?
I have you for
Wanting an item is forgivable. Buying or
This place would be anywhere, so I went over here. Make Don on the top floor. Lower wharf. My goal is here. Which then I just go down, like I said. There's a hidden passage here I haven't explored yet. There's secrets there. Other than that, have I explored everything logically speaking? Yes. Bludgeoning damage.
smuggling one into Rapture is not. Stay on the level and out.
I traded the oh Lord for her. And what did it get me, huh?
Shotgun to the back.
Hold it!
I'll kill you! And you live there! Ah!
Moira. She's a right pain in the neck, but she's a beauty, and she means the world to me. I can't help feel God's punishing me for bringing her and Patrick to this place. I thought this would be a better life for us. Can you imagine a bigger fool than that?
No. Man, what
Welcome to the Circus of Melody.
There's no way, shape, form. From where? From where? There's no one spotted.
Welcome to the Circus of Melody.
From where, little bitch shit, like, dude, how did I lose that? There was no way, shape, form, or possibility that I should have passed off that. Without question, I should have won that. Like, dude, why was he doing that much damage before? And he wasn't doing that much damage before, now he's doing that much damage now. That doesn't make sense. The game's literally just cheating me out of a fucking win. I'm not gonna count that death, because that's stupid. Like, you could look at all my other Big Daddy fights. There's no way he should have done that much damage. If the game's just gonna bitch me out of a win, then it's fucking stupid. Where am I at? It's 22 minutes of this dog shit that just cheats me out of a win because it can't handle I should have already. Yeah, fuck you. Are you gonna cheat the win some more, you stupid bitch? Or are you gonna cheat some more, you fucking bitch?
No!
Save the
No!
fuck.
No!
Fuck you.
Thank you for helping.
Okay, cool, yeah. All little sisters are done. Where am I? I'm at the upper wharf. I need to go to here, which is there. Oh, I'm going.
What you said. I'll do what you said.
A rapture reminds us. The temptation to break through, a little extra habit.
More than words can say.
Unlock a plasmid slot.
If I didn't care, would I feel this way? If this isn't love, then why do I thrill? And what makes my head go round and round while my
But I was gonna say on the level. Upgrade yourself. Something I need.
The warp rat didn't get himself at. You got something for me and my crew? Or are you just looking to get criticized? You set here a spell. I needs to set on some coffee, maybe put on silverware and the like.
Before you head into the fisheries, a word to the wise. Old PG seems about as straight as a dog's hind leg. You keep your eyes open.
Nobody walks into my swampy carrying the heat. Put your weapons in the pneumo, and then I'll let you in.
If that's his price, you're gonna have to pay it. But he can't very well take your plasmas away now, can he?
coffee gives you high, it's tea. Caffeine gives you high energy. It's like the equivalent of smoking a sativa. You just want to get up, you want to move the table, you want to throw the table off the roof because it didn't look good. And you're too damn lazy to get throw it and put it back down the steps. And coffee makes me, but tea is like coffee versus tea. It's like basically saying sativa versus indica. You just want to put your into, you want to relax a little and get your mind off things and play a few video games, or do you want to again throw the foosball off the roof after getting up there and feel too lazy to throw it down? Before I go in here, I'm gonna finish my smoke. So I'm gonna sit here and have a talk with the viewers. Dude, I have 180 at him with all of Little Sister's done. If you look back at the other episodes, it gives us the lore of the Little Sisters. Like, it all comes from a sea slug, like a parasite. It comes from a parasitic sea slug that basically can regenerate dead cells, like a veteran who lost his arm suddenly had his arm back. This is so cool and interesting of a game, and the game itself would actually be legitimate because hold a minute. Because they're in the middle of the fucking ocean, you know. They're like they don't have to abide by international whatever the fuck, you know. They can do it like literally. This is a society that is purely governed by people themselves only. Why whenever this shit goes all to shit, nobody really does anything because nobody realistically wants to or necessarily has to. Because if we're getting way out into international waters like this, you'd have to get like the president of the United States involved or some shit like that, you know? You have to get like someone high up in some place, and they just don't got time to send in troops, you know? Also, the question is who would send in the troops because no one claims the land, you know? Those director cuts are awesome. I saw, I think it was last episode or the episode before we saw one of those, and it was pretty tight, yo. That explosive fuck decimated the the fat guy. which is key and noteworthy to note. I wonder what would happen if I wonder what the science would be realistically behind this. Because if you're building Rapture, it has leaks and stuff, but it wouldn't be designed to do this, you know? Be like the best it possibly can be. Because this is Andrew Ryan's dream. Yeah, Ryan was scared of Fontaine. Damn. That's interesting. Because Ryan's the biggest guy around here. Next to Fontaine, it seems. Because they're like the two only big fish in the pond. I've been making my own video game in my spare time. And like working on 3D models and things like that. It's really super fucking cool. One thing this world sells. No. 3 things this world sells: level design, world design, and graphics. Let me. How do I define level and world? Level design and graphic world design. Level and world design. A world I'm very picky about. The world has to be in depth. Like Wolfenstein has a very, very in depth and developed world. Like we're going to places in Wolfenstein 2 that were talked about in New Order and haven't been talked about since, you know? Alright, I'm burning me fingers. Because I know this is gonna be hell because they took all my weapons away and are expecting me to use this weapon. Ready, bro. Let me proceed.
I bet when your boss wiggled out of hell, he done told the devil he'd be right back. And the devil says, "Sure thing, Mr. Fontaine. I'll hold you a spot." Ryan promised Fontaine was dust, and now here you are doing his dirty. I guess that makes Ryan a bum, and you
by smugglers and thieves. More than likely, the entrance will be hidden. Better to keep the coppers off the scent.
Go make it!
I'm gonna hack these birds or die trying. Gun being chased. Wow. Got it. quad tubes. 6 on force, 24 rounds in the mag. For a fucking revolver, that's pretty good. Oh yeah, machine gun.
Have a cause, a leader. Put him where I can see him!
Fontaine's putting the screws on us, and double. He's squeezing us out of 80 points of our cut with the threat of turning us into Ryan if we don't play ball. Son of a bitch. Sammy G comes and tells me he's thinking of going to the constable. And the next day, Sammy G was found in a sack in the salt pond. We got no choice here. We stay on Fontaine's crew and we're gonna catch the gallows. We take powder, and we end up like Sammy G. Oh, there's gotta be another way.
Oh, this. How much time do we have left? It's F52. We can do this and then I'll end the episode. Yeah, let's watch this. Play
One of the biggest challenges Irrational faced when developing Bioshock was figuring out a way to retain the feeling of a deep RPG while making the game accessible to a broader console audience. Ultimately, the team succeeded in creating an intricate system of weapon and character upgrades that gave the player choice and customization while keeping the gameplay fast, lean, and engaging. One of the hallmarks of Bioshock, to me at least, was that it really blended RPG and sort of first-person action game together in a way that, is sort of standard today, but a decade ago was really pretty revolutionary. And I know for the team, I think at some point it became clear that you wanted this to work on consoles, not on PC, right?
Well, both, yeah.
Yeah. But so the idea of, doing a console game and a PC game, and doing something that sort of felt like a shooter but had much more depth. And I know in some of the early design docs you talked about sort of creating an FPS plus versus an RPG light. What was the difference in your mind between those two?
I think for us is the big difference between System Shock and Bioshock ended up being that System Shock was more about your character growth and Bioshock was more about the environment. Because with System Shock, we really didn't have System Shock 2. We didn't really have either our team to make enough assets or the visual power to sort of make a really convincing environment. But as we started working on Bioshock, the art team was so strong that the ability to tell a story within the environment became the most important thing about the game. And that was sort of not something we thought right at the beginning. That was not really a concept we had. But as we started building things, we could realize that the visual world was the star of this thing. That Rapture was really the star of this thing. And telling the story outside of cutscenes, telling it in the world, so the gamer could discover the story rather than us telling him the story, telling him or her the story. And it was still very much, for the time, I think for the time, quite different than what you had seen in terms of there wasn't a lot of growth in shooters. So it was still, I think, for the time, very, very revolutionary. But I think System Shock 2 was even more ahead of its time in terms of that growth thing, because we defocused a little bit. Primarily, part of it was just figuring out how to do that all on a console controller was very tricky.
No, I remember even the early demos, people like, you see a plasma, you see like a upgraded weapon, people are like, oh, I've never seen that before in a shooter. And that was, when you were coming out of the sort of, the Quake, Doom, Half-Life, where it's like you have, 8 weapons on the keyboard and you sort of knew what they were and they weren't going to change. Yeah. Sean, was that something that, from a sort of creative standpoint, was it always clear that that was something you guys wanted to do, or it evolved over time because you wanted to have more depth in the game?
I mean, it certainly evolved over time, and each upgrade path was slightly, had its own unique challenges. Like certainly upgrading the weapons, you had to design a base weapon that didn't feel like crap. Still felt like something that you wanted to use, but then the ability to add the upgrades to that, and each of the upgrades can come in any order, so you have to be aware that this, parts A, B, and C could come in at any different time to upgrade the weapon. In a first-person shooter, that's your star. That's the thing that you're seeing all the time. When it comes to other things, plasmids, things that are,
Tonics.
Tonics, yes, sorry. It's been a while.
Come on, Sean.
I know, it's 10 years. Those things were more offloaded to machines that you would then have to interact with, so you're not carrying the inventory around with you. But each of these decisions on how we're going to upgrade the player, it wasn't like a mouse and keyboard. Okay, we can just use the mouse, and you have all these buttons at your disposal.
You could arbitrarily point at a part of the screen really easily, which you could do in System Shock 2.
Yeah, so we certainly learned trial by fire when we were trying to adapt these things to the console at the time.
Yeah, and like having different ammo types and stuff like that. Like we went through numerous iterations of the interface to make it. Like we had the first times we sort of put the interface into play. It was very obtuse and very tricky to get your head around, and we just kept working on it and working on it and working on it because we want to feel like second nature. But we spent a lot of time on that.
What motivated the idea of having so much choice in the way you could sort of play through this game? What was it to give the player a better sense of authorship over the experience, or what was driving that?
I've always liked the idea of giving the player a lot of agency in terms of their play style and experimenting with the play style and trying different things and seeing what worked and didn't work and interacting with the environment. The notion that it's sort of a playground that you get to play around with and imprint your own desire on was great, because I think we were more skeptical about being able to do that with story at the time. In fact, so much to the point where that became almost like a joke. That becomes the meta joke of the game, of how little agency you have in your story. But agency in terms of how you play the experience and how you load out your weapons and how you interact with the environment. As compared to most shooters at the time, where basically like you can shoot them with the shotgun or shoot them with the the pistol. That was really important to us. So we spent a lot of time trying to make the world react in a way that you would expect and hope it to react when you tried something.
Right. And some of those decisions we made about systems fed back into the narrative, like locking Adam behind Big Daddy and the little sister. Like you can't get Adam unless you deal with the Big Daddy, which then becomes a roving boss fight, which then becomes another system that I don't know if we planned that from the start or was one of those happy, serendipity, like, oh, this decision that we made about putting Adam behind the Big Daddy totally works because now we have a different type of boss fight that you hadn't really seen in other games.
Actually, it was the other way, because what happened was originally there was no concept of Adam, and Big Daddy just had money and other treasure on them, like every other splicer. Yeah. And they were so tough, nobody would ever fight them, because why on earth would you go after that guy?
Right, go off a bunch of small splicers and get the same amount, yeah.
So we had to come up with a currency that was exclusive to them, because we knew that was where the fun was, right? But we also knew people were terrified of survive them, and we didn't want to fight them.
Yeah.
So video game development and system development is a lot like economics, right? You know, in economics, you try to encourage certain behaviors through tax, usually through tax policy. You know, well, you want business growth, so you lower taxes on certain segments of the business economy, or you want to encourage, you know, people to move into this area, so you make incentives to move in here. We had to make an incentive for players to fight the big daddy, and Adam became that incentive. And then once you had this Adam, then you had a new piece of narrative, which they could then incorporate back into the story.
Yeah. It'll taste the Adam fucking drink.
Stay away from her, or it is you who will be shot next.
Easy now, Doctor. He's just looking for a wee bit of Adam. Just enough to get by.
I'll not have him hurt my little ones.
Talk a bit about the plasmids and the vending machines and that sort of whole approach to, I guess, what is kind of a tech tree, but, you know, and coming from PC games, you know, used to strategy games and whatnot with very complicated ways of how you would upgrade things. I thought you guys did you had a really interesting approach to how you made it very accessible to a console audience. How did that evolve? Did you know that vending machines were going to be there from the get-go?
Well, we had vending machines in System Shock 2, so we were sort of lifting that, and I always thought that was a fun notion because it's a affordance that people already understand. You know, they see a vending machine, they know immediately, oh, that's where I buy stuff, right? Yeah. And you also then have to have a shopkeep. When we talked about wanting to make things, put limitations on ourselves so things felt fully believable. Yeah. If we had a shopkeeper sitting there, you can't shoot him. He sits there, he doesn't say anything. Right. And all of a sudden he feels fake. Where a vending machine, the Circus of Values machine, can feel 100% authentic. You know, despite the fact that it's selling like ammo and stuff like that, you know, which is,
But in an objectivist society where you don't have rules and regulations on that type of thing, it feeds back into the narrative.
But you don't then break the fiction at all by having these characters who sort of don't really live and breathe in the world. So the vending machines became an important part of that, but we still want to give them character, and hence and so that clown image came from a piece of, that image is actually from like a fruit container or something from like the 1940s. Okay. And so we had a book of like royalty-free images, and I saw that image, and I'm like, let's put that clown on it, and we'll call it Circus of Values. And then, you know, we wrote lines for it, decided he'd be this sort of asshole clown, and then we hired the best actor in the world to play that part. That was me. What I cost, my biggest Avengers, I didn't cost anything.
I didn't know you were really.
I was a clown. Yeah. I was a clown.
I hear it in my head every day.
My wife hates that voice. She hates that voice.
You can give us a little of it right here.
Welcome to the Circus of Values. She does not allow me to do that, so I do it outside of the house. Okay. But it allowed us to have something that felt very rich and very real, while being very limited at the same time.
Feel your cravings at the Circus of Values.
And also, you know, the plasmids and sort of the motif of sort of the videos and how you explain sort of what a plasmid was. That was a really fun way, I thought, to sort of explain that. Sean, how did you guys evolve that? Because it was a very artistic approach.
I think those came on pretty late too, because we were developing all these systems, and you make the assumptions because you're dealing with them every day that the player who gets this game is going to understand what these systems are. And we always joke that you can't ship a developer with a game, or you can't expect somebody to have a README file for all of these things. Nobody's understanding what these plasmids are or how to use them. How do we present these to the audience in such a way that they're going to understand what it is fictionally and what it is functionally? Because Rob Waters did a lot of the animations on those, and we sit down and we write out like a little 30-second commercial of what this thing is. And again, because going back to the narrative, this is what would happen in Rapture. People are trying to sell these things, so they would come up with commercials to explain why you need this. Using that as your framework, you can then come up with all of these little gags that people will remember that have a little personality to them. But I think ultimately in the end weren't that expensive to create, because they're cheap.
I think one of the most important things about it is we didn't want them to be long, and we didn't have a lot of budget for the art, so we have like a couple of frames of animation in them essentially. And so we had to figure out how do we message how this thing works in like that. And that's what marketing is, right? It's how do you message how something works. And marketing and tutorializing are very similar things, right? You're trying to get a message across in a very brief period of time in a very snappy fashion. And I think that one of the things that I always felt about games is that tutorials are sort of death. And because they're usually like, you go into a scene and there's like a shooting range or something like that, and
narratively they never really make sense either.
And they're so boring. And so we always try to put a big burden on ourselves of how do we train people while not letting them know a bunch of art constraints on that, which also led to a bunch of writing constraints. And so those things were like, I don't even know if they were 30 seconds.
Yeah,
they were
like
really short.
seconds.
Yeah, like 15 seconds long. We had to explain a whole plasmid in that period of time. And I think that was a good exercise because it also made the game, it forced us to be concise and to really explain what this thing was like that.
Throw objects at foes. You can even catch grenades and throw them back.
How long has this recording been going for? It's been going for an hour and 5 minutes. I want to thank y'all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode of Bioshock. And I'll see you partners in the next one. Have a good day.